Understanding what Donald Trump thinks about an issue is important, but understanding what Donald Trump thinks about nuclear weapons and their potential use in the future may be more important than anything else. And joining us now to help us understand that is the outreach consultant for the Union of Concerned Scientists, Lily Adams. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Glad
to be here.
Before we jump into various aspects of Donald Trump and nuclear weapons, what's your background in this issue area?
So previously, I ran the nuclear weapons campaign at a group called Washington Physicians for Social Responsibility. And before that, I trained as a community organizer.
Okay, so let's jump right into it. It seems like Donald Trump is interested in spending quite a bit of money on renovating, refurbishing our nuclear arsenal. He's spoken previously about wanting to massively expand it in a way that seems impossible. What are your thoughts about what could become a new sort of arms race?
Yeah, so right now the government is on track to spend $1.2 trillion rebuilding and, like you said, revamping our nuclear arsenal. And that's just a massive number. I think it's really hard to conceptualize that. So what that comes down to is actually $4.6 million every single hour for the next 30 years. And I think you and I could both think about a lot of other things that we would rather see that money going to. But like you said, what this is really doing too is this massive amount of spending is encouraging spending from other countries as well. And that's really putting us in a dangerous situation of building up new nuclear weapons all around the world.
Yeah, and even if somebody watching this thinks that us having this massive arsenal, even if it's Donald Trump, we would never use it. If he is doing something that is inspiring a number of other world governments who we don't necessarily have the same reason to believe won't use it, even though perversely we're the only ones who ever have, people should probably be scared about that. In terms of Donald Trump as an individual, though, has he given you reasons to fear that he might be a little bit more casual about the potential use of nuclear weapons than other world leaders?
I mean, I think we've seen a lot of really contradictory statements come from Donald Trump, and that's definitely been concerning. I think one of the most worrying things that we're seeing right now is what's happening with the Trump administration is really a tearing apart of the arms control that we've had in place for many decades that for a very long time has limited the number of nuclear weapons that nuclear weapon states can have and stopped us from getting back to a nuclear arms race. So the US just withdrew from something called the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, which limited an entire class of missiles. And then we've seen talks as well about not extending the New START treaty, which is between the US and Russia, which limits the arsenals of both countries. And if we do not extend New START, then for the first time since 1972, we won't have limits on our nuclear arsenals. So those kinds of actions from this administration are what are really concerning the community right now, because we're taking away those protections that have really kept us safe for many decades now.
Yeah, and just in case people aren't scared enough by this, even in the time where we had limitations, we're still talking about thousands of missiles and bombs,
yes.
Even more warheads. And so the idea of expanding that even further is, it seems from sort of a civilization, from a species viewpoint, suicidal. But that's the direction that we appear to be moving in. And I'm curious, you've worked with leading campaigns on college campuses to get people sort of fired up and active around this issue. Is nuclear arms control possibly at some point drawing down the number of weapons? Is that something that is being talked about or thought about around the country right now?
Yeah, well, I think with this administration, more and more people are starting to think about this issue. But we think that it's so crucial for young people to get involved, but also for this to be a major issue in the presidential campaign. The responsibility of controlling our nuclear weapons arsenal is possibly the most important responsibility of the president. So we should be talking about this. Every single candidate should have clear stances on these issues and should be informed. So we've really been working, like you said, on campuses, but also in lots of other ways through media, through passing resolutions around this in local cities and states around the country to get this issue more at the top of the priority list for candidates.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.